Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sift through stacks of info to bring you the really important stuff tailored just for you. Today we're looking at something our sources call the Fluency Escape Plan. It's a, pretty unconventional way to master English. Forget the textbooks. This deep dive is all about breaking free, getting out of those rigid rules that might feel like they've kept you locked up in your learning. You've got some really fascinating material promising a kind of fluency revolution. It's full of tricks you can use straight away, things that make even imperfect English feel powerful.
Yeah, what we're diving into today, it really flips the script on what fluent even means. It's moving away from perfect grammar and more towards real connection, actually communicating. So our mission here is to figure out how you can learn quickly, get those aha moments, and importantly, not get overwhelmed, all with this memorable anti-classroom kind of vibe.
Okay, let's get into it. This idea of escaping English prison, it sounds dramatic. The source lays out three main ways to break free. The first one is called tunneling out with fillers. Intriguing.
Right. It's basically using these, the source calls them get out of jail free cards for when you blank on a word. So instead of just stopping dead, you might say, could you pass me the, that clicky thing for the door, when you actually mean lock. And it's not just about keeping the conversation flowing, though that's key. It's also a cognitive thing. Using fillers like, actually gives your brain a second or two, time to search for the word or plan your next thought. It really lowers the pressure. Plus, it signals to the person you're talking to that you're still, thinking, processing. Makes it feel more natural, less like a quiz.
That makes sense. Keep the flow, buy some brain time. But I can imagine someone thinking, won't I sound, less smart if I use and all the time? Is it really a totally free pass? Or is there a catch?
That's a fair point. A really common worry, actually. The source isn't saying you should suddenly stuff every sentence with fillers. It's about using them strategically, like a tool. Think about it. Native speakers use them constantly. It's part of how we talk, so view it less like a crutch, more like, part of the rhythm of natural speech. The big advantage is it keeps you talking, building confidence, instead of just freezing up because one word escaped you. It's communication over silence, really.
Okay, communication over silence. I like that. Then there's the next strategy, which sounds even more counterintuitive. Distracting the guards with stories. The idea being native speakers care less about perfect grammar and more about drama.
Exactly. It means jazzing things up a bit, using phrases like, so you won't believe this, OMG, and then he was like, seriously, can you believe it? It taps into something fundamental. When you focus on telling a story, making it engaging, adding emotion, people get drawn in. They stop focusing so much on how you're saying it, like your grammar, and get caught up in what you're saying, your story. You're hitting them on an emotional level, and that builds connection way faster than perfect sentences.
An emotional connection, right? But what if you're not naturally a big storyteller?
Yeah.
Or maybe feel a bit shy about being all OMG. Are there simpler ways to do that? To shift the focus without putting on a whole performance?
Oh, absolutely. Drama doesn't have to mean huge gestures or yelling, not at all. It's more about injecting some kind of real feeling or maybe a vivid detail. Even just changing your tone, pausing for emphasis, or using a good descriptive word can pull people in. The source points out that we're kind of wired for stories, for narrative. So even sharing a simple observation, but with genuine feeling, or painting a little picture with words, that's often enough. It makes the listener care more about your message than picking apart your structure.
Okay, interesting. And the third escape route, disguise yourself with accents. This one sounds a bit provocative. The source literally says, a bad accent beats no confidence. What's that about?
Yeah, it's a bold claim, isn't it? But the idea isn't to master a whole new accent overnight. That's pretty overwhelming. Instead, the trick is to pick just one sound, one specific sound, and exaggerate it a little. So for an American accent, maybe lean into those R sounds, a bit like a pirate, or for a British sound, maybe focus on dropping some T's. So water becomes more like water. By just nailing or even just emphasizing one key sound, you create this auditory cue. It signals native-like to the listener, even if other beats aren't perfect. And that gives you a massive confidence boost. Seriously. And that confidence makes you sound bolder, more natural. It feeds itself.
Wow, just one sound. Unlocking confidence like that really resonates. I know sometimes just the fear of sounding wrong can totally freeze you up. Does the source give any tips on how to get over feeling awkward when you first try it?
It does, yeah. The main thing is, just try. Daring to make the sound is way better than avoiding it because you're scared it won't be perfect. The suggestion is maybe practice the exaggerated sound by yourself first. Get used to how it feels. But the real benefit comes when you actually use it talking to people. Remember, you're not aiming for perfection, just an approximation that sounds confident. And honestly, most listeners are really supportive. They appreciate the effort. The awkwardness is usually more in our own heads than anywhere else.
Right, get out of your own head. Okay, so you've mentally escaped the prison. You're communicating more confidently. What about the actual words? That brings us to the black market vocabulary. Trading polite textbook stuff for, well, real English.
Exactly. This part really gets into how some of those super polite phrases you learn just sound stiff, unnatural in everyday chat. So it suggests swapping them for what it calls actual useful words. Street English, basically. It gives 5 specific examples you can use right away. Like, instead of a really formal refusal, you could maybe use, ain't nobody got time for that. Now, obviously, context matters, but it shows a different register. We'll look at the nuance, why these feel more authentic, more insider.
Right, and it mentions my bad instead of a full I'm sorry, and when something's really funny, just saying I'm dead.
Yeah, precisely. They hit differently, don't they? My bad is perfect for small mistakes. It acknowledges it, but without the heavy weight of a formal apology. Quick, casual, and I'm dead. It just captures that feeling of finding something hilarious way more vividly than saying that's very humorous.
Then there's that slaps for great music or food. Instantly conveys strong approval, and using bet as a cool short way to say yes or okay or deal. These are the kinds of phrases that make you sound more natural, more plugged in. Small changes, big impacts on how you come across.
They definitely sound more current, but how do you know when it's okay to use them? Like, you probably wouldn't say, that slaps about the quarterly report to your boss, right? Could using them wrong backfire? That's a really important question. Context is everything. While they're street English, they aren't for every single street, Definitely not for every situation. You wouldn't use I'm dead in a super formal setting, like you said. The best way to learn the when and where is just exposure. Listening, watching shows, seeing how native speakers use them. Actually, the next part, the fluency heist, ties right into this. It helps you figure out the context through focused observation. You start to get a feel for it.
Okay, makes sense. So you've broken out, we've got some new authentic vocabulary. Now what? How do you put it all together? This leads to the fluency heist. Sounds like an Ocean's 11 plan for English, plotting the perfect English score.
Yeah, it's framed like that. The first move in this heist is case the joint. What that means is pick one short scene from Netflix or whatever you're watching, just one, and watch it 5 times. Watch it until you can actually mouth the words along with the actors. It's not just about memorizing, it's about building muscle memory for your mouth, internalizing the rhythm, the intonation. When you mouth the words repeatedly, you're training your mouth and brain to make those sounds, those patterns, without thinking so hard, like practicing a golf swing. It's deep practice, quality over quantity.
Just one scene, 5 times. That feels really different for the usual advice, like watch loads of TV. Why is that deep dive on one small bit better than just watching more stuff?
It's about how our brains learn, really. Cognitive load. When you watch tons of different things, your brain is constantly juggling new words, new accents, new situations. It's broad, sure, but often kind of shallow. With casing the joint, you shrink the focus. One manageable piece. This lets your brain switch gears from just trying to understand to actually imitating and absorbing. You're not just hearing it, you're feeling the words form, connecting sound to the physical act. That builds real muscle memory for speaking smoothly.
Got it. Less surface area, more depth. Okay, step 2 of the heist. Disable the alarms. This involves finding 3 common filler words native speakers use. The source picks out like, basically, and you know what I mean.
Right. We talked about fillers earlier as escape tools, but here it's about actively adopting them, proactively using them. These little words, like, basically, they seem minor, right? But they're crucial for sounding natural. They're like little pauses, mental breathers. They connect thoughts smoothly. They let you think for a split second without that awkward dead air. Makes your speech flow better, sound more authentic. They're not just filler, they're conversational lubricant. And sometimes they even check if the listener's following, like, you know what I mean?
So if they're actually useful,
Yeah.
is it kind of wrong that some people try so hard to cut them out completely? Like, aren't they seen as bad habits?
Well, that view often comes from thinking about formal written language in actual spontaneous conversation. Fillers are everywhere. Native speakers use them constantly. Trying to eliminate them entirely can make you sound, well, a bit stiff, maybe even robotic. You lose that natural rhythm. The source's angle is, Embrace them. See them as tools for fluency, for connection. Not mistakes, they're part of how real talk works.
Okay, embrace the like. Got it. Final step of the heist. Grab the goods. Which means stealing one full sentence to use tomorrow.
Yeah, stealing in a good way. It's not about memorizing random scripts. It's about actively noticing phrases you hear maybe from that Netflix scene you cased, or just in conversation phrases that sound good, that resonate with you, and then you consciously decide, okay, I'm going to use that sentence tomorrow. It's super practical. It bridges that gap between just listening or learning and actually speaking. You take a complete natural-sounding chunk of language and immediately make it your own, put it into practice. It really shows how this whole plan is built on these immediately usable tricks, leading to that powerful, maybe imperfect, but real English.
Wow. This whole deep dive has definitely offered a really different, almost rebellious take on learning English, hasn't it? It's pushing this idea of a fluency revolution, not just sticking to old rules. We've seen how things like using fillers strategically, focusing on storytelling, just tweaking one accent sound, using real street English, and stealing sentences, how they can all shift your whole approach.
Absolutely. And what's really fascinating, I think, is the core message underneath it all. That maybe fluency isn't really about getting every single grammar point perfect or having zero accent. Maybe it's much more about, confidence. About genuinely connecting with people, about just having the courage to speak up and communicate, getting your ideas across, connecting even with the messy bits.
So thinking about all this, what does it mean for you listening right now? If you've ever felt kind of stuck, maybe locked up by the traditional ways of learning, perhaps this suggests the real escape isn't about reaching some impossible standard of perfection. Maybe it's more about embracing the process, the speaking itself. Powerful, human, maybe a bit messy. Just getting your voice out there.
Yeah, and that leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on, doesn't it? How might things change for you if you shifted your focus away from chasing rigid rules and towards just communicating confidently, immediately, authentically? Could that unlock a level of English fluency you didn't think was possible? What if the real truth about fluency is just daring to be yourself when you speak, flaws and all, trusting that connection matters more than